Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, Maulana, shukran.
Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. It's been a while. We were busy with Surah Muhammad. And if I recall, we were busy with verse number 4. Finish verse number 4. Yeah. Surah Muhammad, as I mentioned before, the name of the surah, Surah Muhammad, it's also known as Surah Al-Qital. And the introductory verses, a lot about it, speak about interactions with the kuffar, but those who are warring against the Muslims and who are obstinate in their warring against the Muslims. With specific reference, in terms of the period of the revelation of the surah, a specific reference to the battle of Badr. And we know that there is the 17th of Ramadan. This would be the anniversary of the battle of Badr. There's some customs in relation to customs of the ulama that they would do on the 17th of Ramadan. One of them is to mention the names of the Shuhada of Badr. Mention the names of the Ahl Badr. Even Imam al-Bukhari, he lists in his Sahih al-Bukhari, he lists the names of all of the Shuhada of the Battle of Badr. Oh, he mentions all of the participants, in fact. I think in the next period, Mona Khalil is going to read that along with the narrations of the Battle of Badr. Because he's doing Surah Al-Anfal, right? Okay, I think he's going to do Surah Al-Anfal, and that surah also speaks a lot about the Battle of Badr. So recount those hadith, inshallah. But in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saying what? Let's see. Allah firstly categorized people. الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Then Allah says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَآمَنُوا بِمَا نُزِّلَ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the different states. The one given to ruin, the other one, the believers and those who accept whatever Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rectify their affairs and He will wipe away their sins. Why? Allah says, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا اتَّبَعُوا الْبَاطِلِ. That's because those who disbelieve, they chose to follow falsehood. وَأَنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّبَعُوا الْحَقِّ. And those who have believed have chosen to follow truth from their Lord. And thus does Allah set for people their parables. فَإِذَا لَقِيتُمُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَضَرْبَ الرِّقَابِ. When you meet those who disbelieve in battle, then strike the necks. Basically aim to kill. حَتَّى إِذَا أَثْخَنْتُمُوهُمْ. Until you have thoroughly defeated them. فَشُدُّوا الْوَثَاقِ. Then fasten tightly the bonds or the fetters, the chains of captivity. فَإِمَّا مَنًّا بَعْدُ وَإِمَّا فِدَاءً. Either you will set him free. Manna, you have man is to confer a favor upon somebody, right? You will confer a favor upon them by simply setting them free. وَإِمَّا فِدَاءً. Or, like, it's actually وَإِمَّا and either. Fida'an, ransom, to be complete this. وَإِمَّا فِدَاءً, or you will ransom them. حَتَّى تَضَعَ الْحَرْبُ أَوْزَارَهَا. Until the battle puts down its burdens. ذَلِكَ, and what we mentioned there is until basically all the fighting abates. ذَلِكَ وَلَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ لَانْتَصَرَ مِنْهُمْ. That, and whomsoever Allah wills, لَانْتَصَرَ مِنْهُمْ. He will take victory from them. وَلَكِنْ يَبَلُوَ بَعْضَكُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. But so that He tests some of you with others. Meaning, what Allah is saying is, if whomsoever Allah wants, He can give them victory. Allah could have made it such that He destroyed the mushrikeen of Makkah on His own. He gave them some calamity and destroyed them. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't do that. He could have taken victory out of His own. However, He creates the phenomena of war so that He tests some of you with others. He tests some of you with others. When you go to war, oftentimes, especially like in the case of the Battle of Badr, who were the Muslims fighting? To us, it's the Muhajirun are fighting the Quraysh of Makkah. To them, it wasn't that. To them, it was, I am fighting my family. I'm fighting my brother. I'm fighting my father. I'm fighting, my friend. I'm fighting this person that I spent my whole life with. But now, because he wants to dim, or he actually wants to put out the light of Islam, I have to take sides and I have to fight against him. So it's easy for us to look at the battle and say, from our perspective, it's one group against another group. It's the believers against the polytheists. But that's not the reality of battle. It's people fighting people. And oftentimes there's relationships between. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He creates this phenomenon so that He tests some of you with others. It's a real test of faith when you have to go fight against your own friend for the sake of Allah. And to kill them. And in fact, there were times when the companions would ask that others of the companions mustn't fight against their family members. Because they knew, look, I love this person. But okay, I must say it clearly, they would opt for themselves to be the ones that fought against them. Because if I see somebody, alhamdulillah, our parents are all Muslim, but if somebody becomes Muslim and their parent is not a Muslim, do they love them? Of course they love them. Of course they love them. It's natural that love remains in your heart. And if they see somebody hurt that person that they love, how do they feel towards the person that hurt them? They might have a feeling of negativity, of hatred towards them. So they opted to not murky that relationship of brotherhood with a Muslim brother. Let me instead fight against my own family member. So that's a real test of faith. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَلَكِنْ لِيَبَلُوَ بَعْضَكُمْ بِبَعْضٍ. But so that He tests some of you with others of you. وَالَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَلَن يُضِلَّ أَعْمَالُهُم. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا. And those who قُتِلُوا, those who قتل, to kill, قُتِلَ, to be killed. Those who قُتِلوا, they have been killed. فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, in the path of Allah. فَلَن يُضِلَّ أَعْمَالَهُم. فَلَن, lan does what to a verb? It negates it. Negates it in the future. How do you translate the land? Never. Will never. It negates it, but for the future. فَلَن يُضِلَّ. He will never. أَضَلَّ يُضِلُّ. This is from the fourth bab. ضَلَّ means to be astray. أَضَلَّ means to cause to go astray, or to let something go astray, or to let something be lost. فَلَن يُضِلَّ. He will never let go astray, or He will never let cause to be lost. What will He never cause to be lost? أَعْمَالَهُمْ, their deeds. When you go into battle, the objective in battle is, for a Muslim, you don't go into battle for frivolous reasons. You don't go into battle because I want to fight. You go into battle because there is a hindrance to haqq, there is a hindrance to Islam that I want to remove. Right? So the objective is to do what? Is to attain victory in the battle. Because if you lose in the battle, the hindrance is not removed. The intention is to remove the hindrance. But one of the things that naturally accompany battle is loss of life. Those two go together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us at the end of this verse. If Allah wanted to, He could have given you victory on His own. Rather, He has given you this as a test, testing some of you with others. But also you must know that whoever's lives are lost in the path of Allah, Allah will never let the actions go to waste. Will never let the actions be lost. What does it mean? He will never let the actions be lost. So you see, in the Quran, there's a concurrent, or there is a constant imagery of us sending forth actions to the year after. It's as if you're like depositing it in your bank and you're going to want to withdraw them over there. Surah Yasin, مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about what they have sent forth. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you is that those people who are killed in the path of Allah, Allah will not let their deeds be lost. It's going to end up where it must end up. And they'll be able to, receive their reward for that in full. سَيَهْدِيهِمْ وَيُصْلِحُ بَالَهُمْ. Allah says, سَيَهْدِيهِمْ وَيُصْلِحُ بَالَهُمْ. He will, sa before a verb does what? Makes it future tense. Hada yahdi. Sayahdihim. Soon he will guide them. Soon he, Allah, will guide. The fa'il of yahdi is damir mustatir taqdiruhu huwa, and it refers to Allah. Soon he, Allah, will guide him. He will guide them. Who's that them referring to? Usually when you have a damir, you take it back to the nearest group that it can refer to. Who's the nearest group here? الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Allah is saying, those who are killed in the path of Allah. Not those who fought, those who are killed in the path of Allah. Allah is saying, soon He will guide them. So what understanding do you have of guidance here? Yes, not like they're going to get dawah, someone isn't given dawah and they're going to accept the dawah. No, they've been killed. Meaning Allah is going to guide them to the destination that they were desiring. That's being Jannah. سَيَهْدِيهِمْ وَيُصْلِحُ بَالَهُمْ. أَصْلَحَ يُصْلِحُ means what? For something to be sound, for something to be correct. We know from the root sulh, to reconcile. Aslaha means to rectify or to reform something. So Allah says here, سَيَهْدِيهِمْ, He will guide them. وَأَصْلَحَ بَالَهُمْ, and He will, وَيُصْلِحُ بَالَهُمْ, sorry, and He will rectify بالهم, their matter or their affair. شأنهم, He will rectify their affair. So usually these are things that we seek out in life. But Allah is telling you, for that person that's sincerely willing to put their life on the line for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after their death, Allah will take care of all of their affairs. Allah will take care of all of their affairs. Yes. Yes, that's correct. So there's different particles that you can use in Arabic to make a verb future tense. If I can use the mudari' verb on its own. Right? If I say yaf'alu, it can mean I am doing or I will do. But if you want to emphasize or you just want to specify the future and remove the option of present, then you put either a sa before it or a sawfa. Sa or sawfa. Right? And the sa indicates future but near future. And the sawfa would also include like a more distant future. So I can say sawfa yaf'al, or I can say sayaf'al. Both of those make it future tense, right? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling is that these people who are killed, very soon they will be guided to their destination. And we know, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam expounds upon that in some of his hadith. You see, what happens when a person dies? Go to their soul is in purgatory. It resides in a barzakh ila yawm yub'athun, until the day when they are resurrected. But what happens to the shuhada? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam informs us in a hadith that their souls, the arwah, are removed and put into the bodies of green birds, and they fly around the arsh of Allah in Jannah. So that sayahdihim wa yuslihu balahum, it's not as if they have to wait like the rest of us wait. They start receiving the pleasures of the year after immediately. And again, something I must also mention here is that when we have words like, when we speak about jihad, it's oftentimes easy to take it to struggling and striving in the path of Allah and all of that. We must never become so pacifist to almost remove the idea of fighting from the deen of Islam. No, it exists. It's part of it. Islam is not a pacifist religion. It doesn't like warring. It doesn't like fighting. But it doesn't shy away from it when it's the only way. And that's why there are many hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even says that he indicates that you must desire shahada, you must desire martyrdom. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that if you desire martyrdom with sincerity, then you will be granted that virtue even if you die in your bed. But there is a desire to die in the path of Allah. And again, what I meant by not shying away or not trying to take everything in the Quran and make it allegorical, the word qatala means to fight. And it means to fight physically. The word qutila means to be killed, and it means to be killed physically. Jihad, the word jihad, yes, it does have connotations. And it can be to strive, and it can also mean to fight. Right? But the Quranic references to that jihad, by and large, when they speak in the context of fighting, they are not to be interpreted as simple, just exerting yourself against your nafs. They are to be understood as fighting. So, that's something that should not be belittled. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expounds on how He will treat these people. سَيَهْدِيهِمْ وَيُصْلِحُ بَالَهُمْ. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, like, they are killed, Allah is going to see to all of their affairs. What does Allah say after that? وَيُدْخِلُهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ عَرَّفَهَا لَهُمْ. وَيُدْخِلُهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ. أَدْخَلَ يُدْخِلُ means what? To enter. Dakhala means to enter. Adkhala means to cause to enter someone else, into something. Right? So, وَيُدْخِلُهُمْ, and He will enter them. The fa'il is damir mustatir taqdiruhu huwa, again referring to Allah. And the whom is them referring to الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And He will enter them al-jannata into the gardens. عَرَّفَهَا لَهُمْ. عَرَّفَ يُعَرِّفُ. What does that mean? تعريف. عَرَفَ يَعْرِفُ مَعْرِفَ. That means to know. عَرَّفَ means to make know. So Allah will enter them. And it also means to recognize. We often use the word recognize as opposed to just know what's the word with the root letters ain rafa. So وَيُدْخِلُهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ عَرَّفَهَا لَهُمْ. And He will enter them into gardens which He had made recognizable, which He had made known to them. So it's as if what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me is that they will enter a place that's familiar. And when you enter something that's familiar, you feel, how do you feel? You feel comfortable. So that's one connotation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that He will enter them into gardens that He had made known to them, that they recognize. Another thing that can be understood that's also affirmed by hadith is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the time that they are killed already on this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts allowing them to taste the pleasures of Jannah. There's some hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks of, a Sahabi being martyred, and then, like, his wives in Jannah collect him here on the earth already. So, what we understand from that is that when they enter the Jannah, they will already recognize its pleasures. So you can understand then that either it is that before they actually enter the Jannah, Allah will already give them a taste of those pleasures of Jannah. Or it's just that when they enter the Jannah will feel familiar to them, and they will have that sense of comfort. What's the purpose of these verses? Yes, that certainly is also a connotation. That obviously, when people are willing to give their lives in the path of Allah, it's generally in that they recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set into a reward for them, and that reward is Jannah. That's why, because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam informed them of that. يهديهم ويصلح بالهم ويدخلهم الجنة عرفها لهم. Why does Allah mention these things? All of these verses, they are verses of thawab, they are verses of reward. And what do these verses of reward do? They encourage people, they motivate people, they encourage people to do the same. And in so doing, they should encourage us as well. Though we don't find ourselves in a situation of war, and we don't desire war, but we do desire the maqam of shuhada. And we do desire that if the situation arises where it's necessary for us, that we would be willing to stand in the forefront to protect the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the signs that you're willing to do that is that when you are required to do less than that, you're willing to do it. What I mean thereby is, if you are khalisun, if you have sincerity in your niyyah, that I will give my life for the cause of Allah, then it doesn't mean that you're only willing to give your life by being killed. You're willing to give your life by giving the comfort of your life also for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what would that relate to? What would that translate to rather? When people impose laws other than the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm willing to stand against it. When people try to promote falsehood, I'm willing to stand up for truth. And all of that generally comes at a consequence. If you live in a society that also promotes a manifestation of falsehood, if you oppose that, it's generally going to have consequences. But that's okay. I'm willing to take that on. If I'm willing to give my life, meaning like I'm willing to have my life taken, then I should be willing to do less than that and give my moments while I'm actually alive also in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's really that shows our sincerity in our desire for shahada. The fact that I'm willing to strive for truth even whilst I'm alive and I'm not being actually killed, that indicates my sincerity in my desire for shahada. Like the Palestinians, yes, certainly. If a fight is imposed upon you, if people are warring against you, that is certainly a valid form of jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you with shahada. Those who are standing against it. وَيُدْخِلُهُمُ الْجَنَّةَ عَرَّفَهَا لَهُمْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. In this verse, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, or you who believe, إِن تَنْصُرُوا اللَّهَ يَنْصُرْكُمْ. In is a jumla shartiya. If tansuru, nasara yansur means to help. Who's the fa'al of tansuru? It's supposed to be tansuruna. You are helping, but because of the in, the noon falls over it. If tansuru, if you help, who? Who's the maf'ul bihi? Allah. If you help Allah, yansurkum. It's supposed to be yansurukum, but because this is the response, it gets a sukun at the end. Yansurkum. If you help Allah, He will help you. وَيُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُمْ. ثَبَّتَ يُثَبِّتُ used to have thabat, firmness. He will make firm أَقْدَامَكُمْ, your feet. What does it mean to help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We'll discuss it in the next session, inshallah. Yeah, but no. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِن تَنْصُرُوا اللَّهَ يَنْصُرْكُمْ. يُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُم. Or you who believe, if you help Allah, Allah will help you. وَيُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُم. I was reading some the hikam of Ibn Ata'illah that that pertains very much to this verse, but I will leave that for the i'tikaf, inshallah. We're in there for now. جزاكم الله خيرا وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.